The emergency beacon screamed through Marcus Chen's helmet as his transport ship spiraled toward the rust-colored surface of Kepler-4 for 2b. Sparks flew from damaged control panels while warning lights bathed the cockpit in angry red. His hands moved quickly across the quantum navigation system, trying to stabilize the craft's descent, but the plasma storm had fried most of his electronics. "Come on, hold together," Marcus muttered, his engineering instincts taking over as he rerouted. Power from non-essential systems. The ship shuddered violently as it cut through the planet's thin atmosphere. Below him stretched an endless wasteland of abandoned mining facilities and crystalline formations that glowed with an eerie blue light. The impact came hard and fast. Marcus felt his body slam against the restraints as the ship carved a deep furrow through the rocky terrain before finally coming to rest against a massive boulder. Steam hissed from ruptured coolant lines, and the acrid smell of burned electronics filled the air. He sat still for a moment, checking for injuries before unbuckling himself from the pilot's seat. Marcus had been traveling to the outer rim colonies to help establish new quantum communication networks when the storm hit. Now he was stranded on a planet that official records claimed was completely abandoned after the mining operations ceased 20 years ago. He gathered his tools and emergency supplies, knowing that his quantum engineering skills might be the only thing keeping him alive until rescue arrived. The planet's surface was more desolate than he had imagined. Twisted metal structures jutted from the ground like skeletal remains, while strange crystalline growths pulsed with that same blue energy he had seen from orbit. The air was breathable but thin, and the gravity was slightly heavier than Earth. Standard, Marcus activated his portable scanner, searching for any signs of working technology or shelter. After walking for nearly an hour, he discovered something unexpected. Hidden beneath a collapsed section of mining equipment was an entrance to an underground facility. The metal doorway was partially buried, but his scanner detected massive energy signatures coming from deep below. Whatever was down there was still active, still consuming power at levels that dwarfed anything he had ever encountered. The facility's corridors were dark and filled with the hum of machinery that should not have been functioning. Emergency lighting cast long shadows as Marcus descended deeper into the complex. His scanner readings grew more intense with each level, showing energy patterns that defied conventional physics. The quantum signatures were unlike anything in his engineering databases. Marcus followed the main corridor until it opened into a vast underground chamber. What he saw there made him stop breathing. In the center of the space, suspended by massive energy chains that crackled with purple electricity, was a creature unlike anything he had ever imagined. It was roughly the size of a cargo transport, with a crystalline body that seemed to bend light around itself. Its surface was covered in geometric patterns that pulsed with the same blue energy as the crystals on the surface. The creature's head turned toward him as he entered, revealing eyes that glowed like stars. They held an intelligence that was ancient and profound, but also filled with pain. The energy chains were cutting into its crystalline hide, creating wounds that leaked a substance that looked like liquid starlight. Near its massive form, 3 smaller versions of the creature huddled together. Clearly, its offspring. Marcus realized he was looking at something the galaxy had never officially acknowledged. These were the Vorthok quantum beings that existed partially in normal space and partially in the interdimensional void. Corporate rumors spoke of them in whispers, claiming they could manipulate space-time itself and travel between dimensions at will. But according to everything Marcus knew, they were supposed to be myths. The chains holding them were not ordinary restraints. His scanner revealed they were quantum disruption fields, specifically designed to prevent the creatures from accessing their interdimensional abilities. Someone had built this prison specifically to hold beings of incredible power, and from the looks of the facility, they had been here for years. Marcus approached slowly, his hands raised to show he meant no harm. The mother creature watched him with those star-filled eyes, her body tensing as if preparing for another round of torture. The offspring pressed closer to her, their smaller forms trembling with fear and exhaustion. It was clear they had been used for something, drained of their natural energy for purposes Marcus could only guess at. A computer terminal near the chamber provided answers he wished he had not found. The facility belonged to Hegemony Corporation, one of the largest mining and energy companies in the galaxy, according to the files. The Vorthok had been captured during a deep space exploration mission and brought here for energy extraction and quantum research. For over 15 years, they had been used as living power sources, their natural quantum abilities harvested to fuel Hegemony's most advanced projects. The reports detailed experiments that made Marcus's stomach turn. The creatures had been subjected to constant energy drainage, their offspring used as leverage to ensure cooperation. The quantum energy they produced naturally was being refined and sold as the most powerful fuel source in known space. Entire star systems ran on power that had been stolen from these magnificent beings. Marcus stood there for a long moment, looking at the creatures and then at the data on his scanner. He was just one human with basic engineering tools, facing a quantum containment system designed by the galaxy's most advanced corporation. Any rational person would have walked away, reported the location to authorities, and hoped someone else would handle the situation. But Marcus Chen had not become a quantum engineer by accepting limitations. He had spent his life solving problems that others claimed were impossible, finding ways to make technology work when it should have failed. And right now, looking at those 3 young creatures pressed against their tortured mother, he knew that walking away was not an option. The quantum disruption system was complex, but it followed principles he understood. Energy had to flow in patterns, and patterns could be interrupted. Marcus began studying the containment field generators, tracing power lines and identifying critical junction points. The system was designed to be tamper-proof, but it had not been designed to withstand someone who truly understood quantum field dynamics. Working carefully, Marcus began to modify his portable plasma cutter with components from his quantum communication equipment. If he could create a localized field disruption at exactly the right frequency, he might be able to overload the containment system without killing the creatures in the process. It was dangerous and probably suicidal, but it was the only plan he had. The mother Vorthok watched him work, her ancient eyes following his every movement. Somehow, Marcus felt she understood what he was trying to do. When he looked directly at her, images flashed through his mind. Not words, but concepts and emotions. Gratitude, hope, and something else. Trust. She was trusting him with not just her life, but the lives of her children. Marcus activated his improvised field disruptor and aimed it at the first quantum lock. The device hummed with unstable energy as it sent cascading feedback through the containment system. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility as safety protocols registered the tampering. He had minutes, maybe less, before automated security systems would respond. Asterisk. The first chain dissolved in a burst of purple light. The mother Vorthok flexed her freed limb, quantum energy rippling across her crystalline surface. Marcus moved to the second restraint, his hands shaking as he recalibrated the disruptor. The children began to glow brighter, responding to their mother's growing freedom. One by one, the quantum chains fell away. With each broken restraint, the Vorthok grew stronger, her natural energy patterns reasserting themselves. The facility's power grid began fluctuating as her presence interfered with local quantum fields. By the time Marcus dissolved the final chain, the entire complex was shaking as reality itself bent around the freed creature. The mother Vorthok rose to her full height, her crystalline body blazing with interdimensional fire. She looked down at Marcus, and he felt a wave of emotion wash over him. Not just gratitude, but something deeper. Recognition. She saw in him something that others had missed. A potential that even he did not fully understand. The offspring gathered around their mother, their small forms glowing with renewed vitality. They were beautiful creatures, beings of pure quantum energy given crystalline form. Their mother touched each of them gently with one massive appendage, checking for injuries and offering comfort. Then she turned back to Marcus. Without warning, she reached out and touched his forehead with one delicate crystal formation. The contact sent a shock through his entire nervous system, but not of pain. Information flooded his mind, concepts and knowledge that his human brain struggled to process. He saw glimpses of the galaxy as it truly was, not the sanitized version presented by corporate media, but the real thing. Countless worlds where creatures like the Vorthok were imprisoned, enslaved, or worse. When the connection ended, Marcus staggered backward, his head spinning with new understanding. The Vorthok were not just powerful beings, they were guardians, protectors of the quantum pathways that held the galaxy together. Their imprisonment here was not just a crime against them, but against the natural order of space-time itself. The facility's security systems were fully active now, sealing blast doors and preparing automated defenses. Marcus knew they had to leave, but the Vorthok seemed unconcerned by the approaching danger. The mother creature looked at him one more time, and Marcus felt a question in his mind. Would he come with them? Would he help them free others, like themselves? Marcus Chen looked around the chamber that had been a prison for 15 years, then at the magnificent creatures he had just liberated. His transport was destroyed, his original mission abandoned. By all rights, he should have been trying to find a way off this planet and back to his normal life. Instead, he nodded. The mother Vorthok's eyes blazed with something that might have been joy. She gathered her offspring close, and quantum energy began building around them all. Marcus felt reality shift and bend as the creature prepared to tear a hole in space-time itself. Whatever came next, his life as a simple quantum engineer was over. The last thing he saw before the portal opened was the blast doors exploding inward as hegemony security forces stormed the chamber. They were too late. Marcus and his new allies were already stepping into the space between dimensions, beginning a journey that would change the galaxy forever. Asterisk, the bond and the revelation, the interdimensional void was nothing like Marcus had imagined. Instead of empty darkness, he found himself suspended in a space filled with swirling colors that had no names in human language. Quantum currents flowed around him like rivers of light, carrying information and energy between distant points. In the galaxy, the Vorthok moved through this space as naturally as fish swimming through water. Their crystalline forms perfectly adapted to navigate the spaces between realities. Marcus should have been dead. Human bodies were not designed to survive outside normal space-time, but somehow the mother Vorthok was protecting him. A bubble of stable reality surrounded him, maintained by her will and powered by quantum forces he barely understood. Through their telepathic connection, he felt her amusement at his amazement. To her, this was as natural as breathing. They emerged from the void onto a small asteroid floating in the outer reaches of the Kepler system. The surface was covered with the same blue crystals Marcus had seen on the planet, but these were different. They pulsed with gentle warmth rather than the harsh energy of the mining facility. This was a healing place, a sanctuary the Vorthok had created long ago. The three offspring immediately began absorbing energy from the crystals, their small forms growing brighter as they healed from their long imprisonment. Marcus watched in fascination as wounds that had been carved into their crystalline skin began to close, the liquid starlight that served as their blood flowing freely once again. The mother creature settled onto the asteroid's surface with a sound like wind chimes singing. Up close, Marcus could see that her imprisonment had taken a terrible toll. Deep gouges ran along her sides where the quantum chains had cut into her, and several of the geometric patterns on her surface had been damaged or destroyed entirely. But she was alive, and she was free. Marcus activated his portable medical scanner, trying to understand the creature's physiology well enough to help. What he discovered amazed him. The Vorthok were not just crystalline beings. They were living quantum computers, their entire bodies functioning as massive processing matrices that could manipulate space-time at the subatomic level. Every geometric pattern on their surface was actually a complex circuit designed to channel interdimensional energy. Using his engineering knowledge, Marcus began constructing a quantum field harmonizer from components in his toolkit. It was crude, compared to the elegant technology the Vorthok possessed naturally, but it could help stabilize the damaged quantum patterns in the mother's body. As he worked, she watched him with growing interest, occasionally offering gentle corrections through their telepathic link. The process took hours, but gradually the mother Vorthok's wounds began to heal. As her quantum patterns stabilized, Marcus felt their mental connection growing stronger. Images flowed between them more clearly now, and he began to understand the true scope of what he had stumbled into. The Vorthok were ancient, older than human civilization by millions of years. They were the gardeners of space-time, maintaining the quantum pathways that allowed faster-than-light travel and keeping the fundamental forces of the universe in balance. For eons they had worked in secret, protecting younger species from cosmic threats they could not even comprehend. But everything had changed when the great corporations began their expansion into deep space. Creatures like the Vorthok were captured and enslaved, their natural abilities exploited for profit. Entire families had been broken apart, with parents forced to watch their children suffer in quantum laboratories. The interdimensional pathways they had maintained for millions of years were being corrupted and destroyed. Through the mother's memories, Marcus saw the galaxy as it truly was. On distant worlds, Vorthok were chained in facilities similar to the one he had discovered. Their quantum energy was harvested to power corporate fleets and fuel the expansion of an empire built on suffering. The corporations had convinced themselves that these beings were just advanced animals, but Marcus could feel the depth of their intelligence, their capacity for love and loss. The smallest of the offspring approached Marcus as he worked, its young mind reaching out to touch his thoughts. What it showed him nearly broke his heart. The child had been born in captivity, had never known freedom until today. Its siblings had died in the laboratories, drained of life to power experiments. They could never understand. This family represented just a tiny fraction of the countless beings suffering throughout the galaxy. Marcus sat back on his heels, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he had learned. He was just one human, a quantum engineer who had stumbled into something far beyond his comprehension. How could he possibly make a difference against corporations that controlled entire star systems? The mother Vorthok moved closer, her massive form radiating warmth and comfort. Through their connection, she shared something unexpected. Hope. She had lived for millions of years, had seen species rise and fall, had watched the universe change in ways that would drive human minds to madness. But she had also seen the power of individuals to alter the course of history. Marcus felt images flowing through his mind. Human heroes throughout history who had stood against impossible odds and won. Scientists who had changed the world with simple discoveries. Engineers who had built wonders that seemed like magic to earlier generations. The Vorthok saw potential in humanity that humans themselves often missed. But more than that, she saw something special in Marcus. His quantum engineering skills, combined with his moral courage and willingness to help others, made him uniquely suited for the task ahead. She offered him a choice. He could return to his old life, forget what he had seen, and live out his days in comfortable ignorance. Or he could accept a bond with her, gaining abilities that would let him fight. For those who could not fight for themselves, the decision should have been difficult. Marcus had a good life, a successful career, people who cared about him. Taking on the might of the galactic corporations was not just dangerous, it was suicidal. Any rational person would have chosen safety. But as Marcus looked at the three Vorthok offspring, their young minds still scarred by years of torture, he knew there was really no choice at all. He reached out and placed his hand on the mother creature's crystalline surface, accepting whatever consequences would follow. The bonding process was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Quantum energy flowed between them, rewriting his DNA at the molecular level and integrating Vorthok biotechnology with his human physiology. His nervous system expanded to accommodate new sensory organs that would let him perceive interdimensional space. His brain was enhanced with quantum processing capabilities that would allow him to understand technologies beyond current human science. The transformation was painful but brief. When it was complete, Marcus could feel the quantum currents flowing around the asteroid, could sense the interdimensional pathways that connected distant points in space. He was still human, but he was also something more. A hybrid being capable of bridging the gap between two species. The offspring were fascinated by the change in him, their young minds reaching out to explore his transformed consciousness. They found his human memories particularly interesting, especially his knowledge of engineering and technology. Through their connection, Marcus realized that they too had been changed by their imprisonment. They had absorbed knowledge from the corporate databases, learning about human technology and galactic politics in ways their ancestors never had. The mother, Vorthok, shared one more vision with Marcus, and this one filled him with both hope and terror. Hidden throughout the galaxy were other beings like themselves, creatures of incredible power who had been enslaved by those who saw them only as resources to be exploited. But there were also allies, individuals from many species who were fighting against the corporations in their own ways. Marcus was not alone in this fight, but he was uniquely positioned to make a difference. His human heritage would let him move through corporate space without arousing suspicion, while his bond with the Vorthok would give him access to technologies that could level the playing field. Their planning was interrupted by the sound of approaching ships. Through the asteroid's crystal network, the Vorthok sensed multiple vessels dropping out of hyperspace near the planet below. Hegemony Corporation was not going to let their most valuable assets escape without a fight. Marcus felt his heart racing as sensor readings flowed through his enhanced awareness. 6 heavy cruisers, each one armed with enough firepower to level a city. They were deploying fighter squadrons and what looked like specialized capture vessels designed specifically for hunting quantum beings. The Mother Vorthok rose to her full height, quantum energy beginning to build around her crystalline form. But Marcus could sense her exhaustion, the toll that years of imprisonment had taken on her abilities. She was powerful, but she was not invincible, and her first priority was protecting her offspring. Marcus activated his transformed scanner, studying the approaching fleet with new understanding. His enhanced perception let him see the quantum signatures of their weapons, the energy patterns that powered their shields. More importantly, he could see the weaknesses in their designs, places where a precisely applied quantum pulse could disable entire systems. The first wave of fighters reached the asteroid as Marcus finished his analysis. They opened fire with weapons designed to disrupt quantum fields, trying to prevent the Vorthok from escaping into interdimensional space. The mother creature deflected most of the attacks, but several struck the asteroid's crystal formations, sending waves of pain through the quantum network. Marcus knew they could not win a straight fight, but they did not need to. He had something the corporations did not expect: detailed knowledge of their own technology combined with quantum abilities they could not fully understand. Using his enhanced senses, he began identifying critical systems on the attacking ships. The youngest Vorthok offspring moved beside him, its small form glowing with excitement. Through their connection, Marcus felt its eagerness to help, to use its natural abilities for something other than providing power for corporate experiments. The child had inherited its mother's quantum manipulation abilities, but it also had something else, an intuitive understanding of human technology, gained from years of forced interaction with corporate systems. Working together, Marcus and the young Vorthok began sending precisely targeted quantum pulses toward the attacking fleet. Instead of trying to destroy the ships, they focused on disrupting specific systems. Navigation computers began malfunctioning, weapon targeting systems went offline, and communication arrays started broadcasting nothing but static. The corporate pilots found themselves flying blind. Their advanced technology turned against them by forces they did not understand. Several fighters collided with each other as their navigation systems provided contradictory information. Others fired on their own vessels as their targeting computers identified friendly ships as enemies. But the heavy cruisers were better shielded and more heavily armed. They began a systematic bombardment of the asteroid, trying to destroy the crystal formations that provided power to the Vorthok. Each impact sent shockwaves through the quantum network, weakening the creature's ability to defend themselves. The Mother Vorthok gathered her offspring close, preparing to open another interdimensional portal. But the corporate ships had come prepared for that tactic. They began deploying quantum disruption mines, devices designed to prevent dimensional travel in the surrounding area. The space around the asteroid became a prison as effective as the facility on the planet below. Marcus felt desperation creeping into his thoughts. But the Mother Vorthok projected calm certainty. She had lived for millions of years, had survived threats that would have destroyed entire civilizations. This was not the end of their story, it was just the beginning. Through their bond, she shared with Marcus's knowledge that changed everything. The quantum disruption mines were based on stolen Vorthok technology, reverse-engineered from captured beings like herself. But the corporations had never fully understood what they had taken. The disruption fields could be turned against themselves if someone knew the right frequencies. Marcus smiled grimly as he understood what she was suggesting. The corporations thought they were hunting a broken family of quantum beings and one transformed human. They had no idea they were about to face the combined knowledge of both species, merged into something entirely new. The real battle was just beginning, and Marcus Chen was no longer just a quantum engineer. He was something the galaxy had never seen before, a human with the power to reshape reality itself. And he was very, very angry. Asterisk,